What's good, y'all? It's your boy Spider 3.0, keeping the action going with the Black Series Baylan Skoll. Alright, so here we go, getting into the full review. So we saw the first look, we saw this guy in his packaging, and now we've got him out. And once again, let me just start this off by saying RIP to Ray Stevenson. I think he absolutely did a fantastic job on the role for Baylan Skoll. I think he absolutely crushed it, man. And it's just so unfortunate that we're not going to see him anymore. But again, I think Rory McCannon will do a solid job, and it's nice that at least now we have some figures to remember him by and honor his legacy. So we got this Black Series version, and then there's also a Hot Toys version for those of you that like the real expensive adult toys. And shout outs to my boy, that Metromania. He's got a really dope review on that Hot Toys version. I plan to pick that one up. I've seen it on 16outfitters.com, so I'll be planning to get that Hot Toys Baylan very soon. But yeah, shout outs to my guy, that Metromania. Y'all should check out his review on the Hot Toys Baylan Skoll. But yeah, let's get into this Black Series version. So as you can see, he can pose very nicely. He can get into a two-handed saber pose very easily, which is really nice. Some very nice articulation on this guy. And yeah, he just looks fantastic. You can see, again, his lightsaber is huge. Hasbro kind of overdid it because in the show, he has what's known as a great saber, which is a bit longer than usual, but not to this extent. Like, it should not be like way over his head like that. Like, the blade itself is literally almost as tall as he is, which is kind of crazy. But the reason I know that it is a great saber is because of a channel called The Stupendous Wave on YouTube. Shout outs to them. They're always, keeping me up to date on lore and, Star Wars lore, and just going into depth on really cool stuff like that. Which is why I also know that Baylan's fighting style tends to be a lot of Form 5 Jim So, which is, very heavy-handed strikes, which you'll see a lot in the Ahsoka show when he's, fighting Ahsoka. He tends to like swing his lightsaber almost like a bat or like a hammer, very heavy strikes. So, he's got a very interesting fighting style. But, just his design, and even like from his saber hilt and just his overall like look, definitely reminds me of like a knight, like a medieval knight, like the way he fights. I feel like, again, Ahsoka fights more like a samurai, whereas he fights more like a knight, which is really cool. So it was nice to see those different, styles of fighting clash. It was really dope, and they kind of, evenly matched each other in a way. So, yeah, but it was really, really dope. So let's go ahead and get Baylan on the rotating display base, and then we'll take a closer look at him in full detail. So got him up here. You might not be able to see the top of his lightsaber anymore because it's so big. Let me back this up just a bit. All right, here we go. Let's go ahead and try to get Baylan rotating here. Center him a little bit better there. All right, and here we go. So there he is. Oh, there he goes falling. Lost his balance. All right, let me stop this real quick. Make sure he's got some good balance. No falling, sir. No laying down on the job. All right. Hopefully that is a little more stable for him. Let's try that again. Okay, there we go. All right, so yeah, there is Baylan Skoll in 360 rotation. And again, he looks fantastic. I really like the soft goods cloak that Hasbro gave him. That's why, of course, I chose to go with the Mercenary version or release, because I like to have the option of having the cloak or not having it on. It is removable, of course, so you can take it off of him if you'd like. And, all the details underneath are still there, just like the first release. So, yeah, really, really glad that Hasbro threw that in. And it is a really nice, soft goods cloak for what it is. It's not wired at all or anything, but the overall material is very nice. And, yeah, it looks pretty good, all around. Pretty sure accurate, too. I wasn't quite sure about the color at first when I first saw it, but after looking at some shots from the Ahsoka show, it definitely seems right to me. It's like a dark green, like forest green color, and then you have like we'll see that in a bit. I'll take them for a closer look in just a second here. So let me go ahead and pause him now. There you go. Let's take him off, bring him in for a closer look. All right, so here is Baylan's Skoll, and let me put his lightsaber aside for just a second here. So take it out of his hands. And one thing I want to mention before I forget is that Baylan has a pretty nice soft plastic for the hands, so they flex very easily. So I like that. I hate when, that companies make their hands out of like a really hard plastic that can't flex well to hold the weapons, but his hands are made in a pretty nice, soft plastic, thankfully. So that is really good. It's really easy to get the saber in his hands. And yeah, here is Baylan up close. And yeah, the cloak looks very nice. Again, it has this really nice, like, I don't know, like rubberish type of like little overlay at the top, which is actually show accurate. I like that. That little brim, that little trim gives it a nice like flair and finesse. But yeah, you can see it. I'll put the cape like over his head, and you can kind of conform it to fit his face better, which is nice. For the Star Wars, hoods and stuff on cloaks, I always like to kind of like pinch it on the side to give it that kind of like, that kind of like sharp shape on the side, and then it kind of conforms to like the rest of the head better, I feel. But yeah, that's how it looks with the cloak on. Now let's go ahead and take the cloak off so we can see the details underneath a little better. So yeah, there's the cloak, pretty nice. And here is Baylan's Skoll underneath. And I gotta say, the details on him are very nice. I know some people were saying like maybe this kind of like tealish color on his outfit was like a little too pronounced or like too overdone, but I mean, I think it looks really nice. I'd say like, yeah, maybe it is a little less noticeable in the show, but that really depends on like the lighting that he's in. Obviously, if it's darker, you're not going to see this as much. It kind of like looks like he's just wearing all black, but his shirt did actually have like some of this kind of teal pattern going in there, which is really cool. It almost looks like battle damage, but it's not, because it's kind of just like, almost just looks like, like rust or something, or like erosion. Like you guys have ever seen like a penny erode for like a very long time after it's gotten like wet, and it kind of like gets this color on it. That's what that kind of reminds me of. And then you can see it's even like on his shin pads, which is really nice, going down in like these gauntlets on his arm. Really, really nice. And then from the back, you got that really nice pattern of like this kind of like stitched, or, this kind of like bracket type of pattern going up for his spine. I really like how that looks. Can't remember if these are if there's supposed to be like any silver or any metal in here. I don't think there is, but I'll have to check the show again to be sure. But yeah, it's just nice that they included those details. And like, again, this kind of like raised triangular pattern for his chest that is very show accurate, and it looks really, really good on the front and the back. And yeah, like not too much going on with this outfit. It is like a lot of black. Obviously he has like this kind of like, not a skirt, but like, this kind of like low hanging piece, which looks really cool for like a warrior like himself, a mercenary. And yeah, I really like this look. I think that him and Shin have very, very cool looks. Like I just love like their overall outfits. They feel more like true Jedi Knights, if that makes sense to me. Because, like most, the classic Jedi look of like the tunic and the, the hooded cloaks and everything is awesome. Don't get me wrong, but this guy really feels like a knight. Like when I look at him, and like, just the overall outfit and his fighting style, like he really reminds me of a true Jedi Knight. So I really like how him and Shin have like some of that kind of medieval type of vibe going. I really think that they have some of the freshest, Star Wars drip that I've seen in a while. And I heard that this little piece on his belt might be a kyber crystal, or like fragments of a kyber crystal. I'm not sure how true that is, but if that's the case, that is pretty cool. Got that kind of like green gemstone looking thing in the center of his belt there. And then I think there is a little bit, people say like in this ring on his finger as well. I don't know how well that'll show up on camera, but yeah, he's got some very, very nice details overall. And I think they did a pretty decent likeness on the face. Definitely not 100% Ray Stevenson, but you can easily look at this and tell like who that's supposed to be. I think the sculpt might be just like a touch soft on the face. Like or maybe if they had put like a little bit of shading in some of like the recesses of like his cheeks and whatnot, I think it would like make him look just a little bit better. But overall, I think they did a pretty nice job, especially like with the hair. It looks pretty accurate. Like they've got like the grays in the right place, I would say, and like the more white color of his hair, because it does kind of like change throughout, like in the front, like up top, like up here, I'd say like there's more white in his hair, and then as you like get closer to the back, there's definitely more grays mixed in. So I think that looks pretty good. They've got a like nice wash going through his hair to give it some depth and detail, which is really nice. And then same thing with his beard. He's got like mostly white for the beard and his mustache, and then this is pretty show accurate. Like this like tiny little bit of like gray mixed in at the bottom of the mustache and like a little bit at the top of his beard here. That's pretty show accurate. So that's pretty cool. I think maybe just like a slight touch of gray like on the sides, like a little bit of shading like on the sides of his beard would have made him look even better. But if I really wanted to do that, I probably could. So yeah, that's just something to mention. Now let's get into the controversy behind this guy, which is of course his height. He is far too small, as you will see when we do the size comparisons in the end. But as of right now, he's like almost the same height as Shin, which is his apprentice. That like her figure, which I'll probably gonna review next. You'll see that she, you might not see because I'm gonna end up modding this guy, but I'll just take my word for it right now. I'll put some other reviews in the description as well. But he basically stands like almost the exact same height as Shin, and that's definitely not show accurate. Ray Stevenson was about 6'3", and the lady who played Shin, I'm not exactly sure how tall she was, but he's like almost a full head taller than her. So that's definitely inaccurate. I don't know how Hasbro screwed that up. And like the same thing with the Ahsoka figure, like he's almost the same height as her, which is like very wrong because Rosario's only about 5'7". And so yeah, that was like a big issue for people with this figure. Now luckily there is a mod that I've seen on channels like Robo Don't Know, Out of the Basement, and Landspeederluke. And they have done a mod where basically you can swap out his legs with a lot of people use a Black Series Reva, like Reva the third sister from Kenobi. So like it's a whole process. I'll put the links in the description so you guys can see that if you want to do it. But basically what you're gonna do is just kind of heat up, take his legs off, like heat up the plastic, and then do the same thing with Reva, swap his legs out with Reva's, and then, luckily like this kind of like skirt piece, this hanging piece in front of him will kind of hide, Reva's legs, like you only see the bottom, and they will give him like a significant boost in height, which is good. Now, I didn't really want to use Reva's legs just because, for one, they're a girl's legs. And like, even though this hides it pretty well, I'd rather use like a guy's legs if I could. And so I was looking at my Reva figure, and then I looked at my Count Dooku figure to see how similar the legs were. And since Count Dooku's already like around like 6'5", so like pretty similar in height to Rey, I figured if I could get his legs to work, that would probably work out better. So I think I'm gonna use a Count Dooku because I looked at him and Reva's like inner engineering of the legs. And it seems like they're pretty similar. Like I think Reva's like the ball peg or whatever for like her hips is maybe just like a little bit wider. But with some heat, I think I could like maybe open up the Count Dooku's legs a little more. And I think like swapping Count's legs out for Baylan, I think that'll work out a little better. And I think Count Dooku's legs are also a little bit taller than Reva's, so I think that'll be even better in boosting his height, especially when I put it next to my new SHF Ahsoka. So that's just something to note. What else? Let's see. Yeah. So anyways, here I'll show you guys. I got this new. Move him out the way for just a second, but I got this new Count Dooku from the Black Series, so I'm gonna use this guy completely for fodder and try to do a kit bash with of course his legs and try to swap them out with Baylan's. This is gonna be my first time ever doing like a kit bash, so you guys wish me luck. Next time you see Baylan, he's probably gonna be modded because right after this review I'm planning to try that out and see if it works. And if it does, I'm definitely gonna let you guys know. But so like in future videos, you might see Baylan standing a little taller than you do at the end of this one. in the size comparisons, and so you know, just know that that's the reason why. If it works, which I'm hoping it will. But yeah, so I'm gonna use this guy for fodder. Now we definitely shouldn't be having to do this, right? Getting other figures just to swap out the legs and boost height, like that's ridiculous. Hasbro should have gotten it right the first time, but you know, since they didn't, I'm gonna try it out and let you guys know how it works. But all that being said, here is his lightsaber up close, and I think it looks really nice. Definitely like a few details missing here and there, which is pretty standard for Hasbro, but I think overall they got it pretty nice. It's done in like a pretty metallic silver color for the hilt. I think there definitely should be a little bit of like silver lines in here, like down by the grip, but you know, not a big deal. And then like up here around like this little part at the top, he definitely should have like some red in that little piece right there, like for the ignition button. It should be like a little bit of red in there. And then I think also the hilt, like the very bottom, this like black part of the pommel, I think that should be in like kind of like a bronze color. So they kind of, you know, missed the mark a little bit there. But other than that, not bad. And you can see this very long lightsaber blade. Now this lightsaber blade, I gotta say, is like really, obviously like really long. And when I first watched the show, I didn't realize that his saber was actually supposed to be orange. I thought it was just like a kind of faded red. So like the whole time I thought, you know, he was going to be like a Sith Lord, like especially when him and Shin first showed up. But yeah, it is meant to be orange. Dave Filoni, you know, confirmed that. And so, you know, it is kind of like done in like this dark orange color. But yeah, very long blade. So there is a replacement blade that I got from Cubic3dprints. So I'm going to take this blade out and show you that. And this blade is pretty tight in here, so just be aware of that. Try not to, you know, you want to grab it from the end as you're pulling it out so that it doesn't break. See, I can't even do it on camera. Come out of there. Okay, there we go. And the reason for that is Hasbro did this kind of like on the peg here, if I can get some focus on it. Okay, yeah. Hopefully you guys can see they put like kind of like a ring shape like around like the peg, which I guess like they were trying to like make it more secure in there, but it actually kind of like makes it feel unstable, ironically, like when you plug it all the way in, because I thought I had like actually snapped the blade for a second, but I checked it and it was all right. But yeah, that little ring piece kind of like messes it up, and sometimes it looks like loose when it's plugged in. So I got this replacement blade right here. Right here, it's in this little package from Cubic3dprints. It's in a much lighter orange, as you can see, but the size is more accurate, so that's what matters most. So here is the Cubic3dprints blade, and as you can see, it's a little more translucent, not as opaque as the, you know, Black Series one. And this one has a straight peg, which is nice. There's no like little ring around it, so when you plug it into the hole, it feels a lot more stable into the hilt. But let's see, let's try to get that in there. Okay, let me just push that down a little bit more. I feel like it's not quite down. Okay, there we go. Had to twist it a little bit, but yeah, there you go. And here is his hilt with the new blade in there. And this is a lot more accurate. Again, he has a great saber, which is only like slightly longer than a normal. So yeah, that is gonna look a lot better for him wielding it. But yeah, so Cubic3dprints has those. I'll put a link to in the description to their shop if you guys are interested in that. But yeah, the lightsaber does have a nice like little ring for the hilt, and you can of course hang it by his belt just like in the show. So he does come with some really nice lightsaber storage, as you can see there, and he looks great with it on. All right, so there is Baylan with the saber at his side, and it does stay on very nicely. It passes the shake test, so you know, even upside down doesn't really fall off too easily, so that's nice. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into play and display. All right, so let's go ahead and do it. So bringing it in, he does have very nice articulation. So starting with the head, we can look up about that much. Really, really nice. Looking down, also very nice. Tucks the chin in pretty nice. Nice ball peg. So we get some really good leaning for those expressive poses. Lightsaber fell off, it's fine. You can rotate the head all the way around on that ball, of course. A lot of wiggle room. For the arms, the shin pads are kind of like on a separate like little ring in there, so they do kind of move and get out of the way, which is nice. And then you can rotate the arm a full 360 windmill, which is good. No bicep swivel, which is, you know, pretty common in Black Series. Now Hasbro kind of does like a weird cut with the elbows also. That's something I wanted to mention for Black Series. I'm not sure why they do this. They kind of do like this weird shaped cut around the elbows, and then they'll do like a single joint. But I mean, even with the single joint, he's able to get at least like a 90-degree bend, so that's good. Comes back out. Now, this is something to mention. The hands are actually on ball pegs, not like normal ball and hinge joints, so it's not like a vertical or a horizontal joint. If you pull off the hands, you'll see he actually has like a little ball peg in there, which is really nice. I think they need to start implementing this on all Black Series figures and Marvel Legends, because that really gives you like a full range of motion. You know, you can really do like a full wrist motion like an actual human hand would do. So that's really going to help him out with his lightsaber poses. And as you saw, he can get like a two-handed saber pose, no problem. All right. And then, you know, doesn't really have like a butterfly joint, but he can go back about that far. Arms go out to the side. Ball and hinge, they can go up pretty nicely. So you can get like almost like a Y pose, so that's good. All right. And they go back decently far, but again, no butterfly joint. He can lean forward pretty decently from his joint, lean back even nicer, a little bit nicer, so that's good. He gets some pretty nice side-to-side leaning, so that looks really good. And then you can twist from that same joint, so that's really good. Legs kick up to about a 90 degrees. This gets out the way. All right, so you have that, not too hard of a plastic. You can move it back about that far, which is all right, about what we would expect. No thigh swivel, but it does kind of rotate a little bit from the top. And then down here you have a single jointed knee. If you get all this out the way, you can get that single jointed knee bending to a little better than, or about like a 90-degree angle. He has like just the slightest bit of ankle pivot. The feet do hinge down decently, not quite tippy toes, come up only about like that much. And then he does have a bit of a swivel though at the knee itself, so you can turn the leg from there. And then he actually does get perfect splits out to the side as well, which is surprising. But yeah, so that's actually pretty good for his range. And yeah, that's about it. That is Baylan Skoll in the Black Series. So, you know, I think he looks pretty darn good, if I do say so myself. So yeah, let's go ahead and get into size comparison so you can see just how ridiculously small they kind of size this guy. All right, so I'm gonna leave the cloak off for the size comparisons just because it'll be easier. But pulling him back here, yeah. All right, we got him standing. Let's move this out the way. And you know, first up, we got to get him next to his main foil in the show, Miss Ahsoka, Rosario Dawson, SHF. Now you can see right away that she's like almost the same height that he is, which is definitely not accurate. He should be quite a bit bigger, like almost towering over her. So there is that. For another SHF, we'll bring in the SHF Kawagarager or Navy Thunder Ranger. And you can see they're pretty similar in height. Baylan's only like maybe like a little bit taller from the top of the head there. So keep that in mind. But yeah, definitely not an accurate height comparison. So I'm gonna be modding Baylan for sure after this. Here is the Odious from Unparalleled Universe. And then for Mafex, we have the in-game Captain America, which you can see he is taller than Baylan by quite a bit. So that's definitely not accurate. Like Baylan looks almost insignificant next to these guys. So definitely not the best as far as height goes, but it's all right. We're gonna fix that. We're gonna fix that. For some other Star Wars comparisons, we have the SHF Padawan Obi-Wan Kenobi and the SHF Darth Maul. And this is the first release of Darth Maul, of course. All right, so let's move that back so you can see those two. All right, so there is your Star Wars comparisons for SHF. All right, move these guys out the way. For some more Star Wars, we got Black Series comparisons. Here comes a Phase 1 Clone Trooper and the Count, Mr. Count Dooku. And these guys are very similar in stature and whatnot. But yeah, Count Dooku actually should be a little bit taller. He's 6'5", 6'3", but this is not accurate. He's definitely too short. And yeah, I think the proportions are pretty good on Baylan overall. I think you could maybe argue that like his chest could be a little bit broader, maybe like 10% broader, but overall I think it's pretty show accurate. And then we have the Black Series Deluxe Cobb Vanth right here from Mandalorian and Reva the Third Sister. And yeah, a lot of people swapped her legs out with him to increase the height there, but there you go, there's Reva and him. Let's bring in some more Mafex. We have the Amazing Spider-Man, the Mafex 248. And then here is a Toy Biz Green Goblin from the Sinister 6 box set. All right, and you can see him and Spidey are standing around the same height as of now, and then Green Goblin is quite a bit bigger. All right, so he definitely got some height on him. Here is Darth Ray, and then we have Tiburon Station Obi-Wan from Black Series. All right, so there is that, those two. So yeah, Baylan should definitely be taller than Obi-Wan and definitely taller than Rey. And right now you can see he's standing at about the same height, so that's an issue. Here is that new giant Marvel Legends Venom, the 10-inch Venom from Spider-Man 2 the game. And then we'll bring in Stan Lee himself. I finally got this dude to stand on his own, which was crazy. I figured out I just have to get his feet in a very like wide, pointed out stance. But yeah, there you go. Stan's definitely a little taller than Baylan, and that Venom design obviously towering over him as well. Let's see. We'll bring in the Daredevil, or Matt Murdock, I should say, from No Way Home, Marvel Legends. And for a bigger character, we have Thanos from ZD Toys, the in-game Thanos, that is. All right, so you can see those. And we gotta get some Darth Vaders in here without fail. So here is the Duels in Darth Vader right here from Black Series, and then here is the Mafex Episode 3 Vader right here. And you can see both Vaders are quite a bit bigger than Baylan there. All right, and finishing it off, we have a McFarlane Spider-Man from Toy Biz, as well as a Toy Biz Mr. Fantastic right there. And last thing to finish it, we have the McFarlane Toys Black Adam. So yeah, that's gonna do it for my review, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.